Welcome back, everyone, to another live event here on UNIFY. We are exploring the pillars of peace together. My name is Adam Apollo, and this is a philosophical, psychological journey through time and space in exploration of who we are and what we're here to do and why we are here to do it. Peace is something that all of us want. We want a planet of peace. We want to make peace with each other. We want to find ways through conflicts. Conflict resolution is one of the biggest jobs that we have because we all come to different situations from different perspectives with different ideas and different agendas and desires for different outcomes. And yet, as we want to engage with each other, we have to somehow build a bridge between our desires. We have to find a way through the sort of eye of the needle of separation to a place where we can actually unify and come together and make something amazing together. So we talked about in our last two sessions, the power of trust and the nature of trust and the difficulty at times that we face in extending trust to others when we don't have a prior reference of experience, and the power of creating trust between people and the way that trust actually forms this fabric of society that helps us to understand the landscape of our relationships. As I spoke about a lot in that session, everything that we do in life is based on trust. The restaurants you go eat at, the food, the grocery stores you shop at, the people that you trust with your money for financial investment, the projects that you put your time into, everything that we do is connected to our trust. And so trust is one of these major foundational pillars for developing peace in ourselves and peace on the planet, because it is the fabric of our relationships. Truth, the second pillar of peace that we talked about 2 weeks ago, is essentially about exploring the nature of what is reality. Where are we meeting? How are our perceptions alike and different? And we talked in that session a lot about the different layers of truth that exist, that we have both our individual capacity to glean truth through our direct experience, through our own opinions, through our own perspective, what we call relative truth. And then there are universal truths, foundational truths connected to the structure of reality itself that are unshakable, no matter what your opinion or your perception or projection on those truths may be. And part of peacemaking is understanding the difference, that the truth for me and the truth for us may be a different thing. And yet, if we can seek to find those universal truths, those foundational truths that connect us, that build bridges between our values, what we care about, and what we want to do in the world, then we open up so many doors to be with each other in more peaceful ways and actually collaborate and create with each other through shared perspectives, shared visions, and shared actions. Today, we're going deep into the divine feminine, into the nature of grace itself. We're going to be exploring how grace is not just a concept. It's not an idea. It's not just a thing that I can talk about or point to and say, that's grace. Instead, grace is a journey. It's an experience of an essence. It's something that emerges in a moment within us, and it can change our lives completely. Peacemaking through the lens of grace is a lot about faith. It's about faith in ourselves and faith in other people. And it's about allowing ourselves to trust the process, allowing ourselves to trust that there is enough truth in what is happening in our lives and how things are moving and growing that we can surrender a little bit more, that we can let go just a little bit more. And for me personally, grace has been a guide, a steward, uh, a post that I could look into the distance as I traverse across the landscapes of my life and find my way through, a lighthouse on the shoals of my ventures through the ocean. And this experience of grace that I'm talking about, that which can't be described, that which can't be named, is something that I hope every person has an opportunity to have. In the Gene Keys by Richard Rudd, grace is the gene key 22. And this gene key is about the journey from the shadow of dishonor through the gift of graciousness, the practice of graciousness, to the city or divine gift of grace itself. It's important to acknowledge this work that Richard Rudd has done in this space, because the shadow of dishonor is something that so many of us have experienced so directly. We have had moments where we've offered ourselves, we've brought ourselves to the table, and others' actions do not honor us in that. They perhaps dismiss us, or perhaps fail to follow through with what they said they were going to do, and so dishonor us, or they push us down through some egoic action, some level of power play. We have all had different experiences of dishonor, and usually the heart of that experience has to do with actually feeling like who we are and what we're bringing is not being seen, is not being heard, is not being welcomed, is not being accepted for what it is. And that acceptance, that acknowledgement of just being there and showing up and being who we are is really important to the mental health and our well-being in life. Now, many would say, but it doesn't matter what other people think. It doesn't matter how they treat you. You should do the work internally on yourself to be good. And I would say, yes, it is important to do that inner work. And yet the fabric of our society, our relationships, our trust in each other, our balance, our equity, our ability to work and be at peace with each other is actually a lot about acknowledgement of each other. It is a lot about seeing each other for who we are. It is about acknowledging the strengths and weaknesses of others and just being present with the wholeness of a being. Being present with someone, being honoring of who they are, is something that is a gift you just can't really name. You can't really place a value on it. You can't put a dollar sign on it. You can't put it in a certain box. It just is what it is. Honoring someone is seeing them. It's feeling them. It's getting the essence of who they are, and it's being present with that. And sometimes we can still honor someone and be in judgment of them. We can still honor someone and feel a certain way about something that they're doing. And that's okay too. But to honor and to love are actions that we must take in order to build the fabric of connection, in order to truly feel and know each other more and more deeply. And in that journey, we also have to honor ourselves. And this is really the turning point of dishonor to graciousness, because it is about recognizing and acknowledging that not everybody is capable of honoring you. Not everybody is capable of seeing you for who you are and what your gifts are. And so the act of graciousness is allowing for the fact that someone may not be able to show up. They may have their own issues. They may have their own problems. They may not be able to actually do what they said they were going to do. And by acting through graciousness and saying, you know what, I'm willing to accept that that's the case, and I'm allowing that that's going to be the way that it is, you're freeing yourself from a lot of energy of conflict. And this energy of conflict I'm talking about is, that grumble, anger, like I feel so hurt by this, like I can't believe like, they invited me to do this and yet are not doing anything to share or support this work that I'm doing. And it can feel really hard to show up for something, to give your love to something, to try to promote and to be part of something, and to have someone on the other side not supporting it at all, not doing anything about it, not acknowledging it, not actually providing any kind of way that meets you in that service and in that work. And that feeling makes you not feel good. It makes you not feel worthy. It makes you not feel like there's enough in what you're giving, or that there's something wrong with you. And a lot of times we deal with this sort of psychological impulse of like, well, what's wrong with me? If this person's not, willing to reach out, not willing to connect, not willing to do their side in this, why are they dishonoring me in this way? And the act of graciousness in us is to say, okay, well, it doesn't feel good, and I'm not willing to let that dominate my experience. I'm allowing myself to not grab onto some interpretation of this and latch onto it and believe that they have something against me or that there's something wrong. But instead, I'm going to hold that space, and I'm going to hold it lightly, and I'm going to look at what are the parts of me that are hurt? What are the parts of me that are experiencing this pain from this dishonor? And this graciousness with the self of looking at what part of my inner child is really hurt by this, and how is this connected to the way I felt on the playground when everybody teamed up and you're pushed aside, or you're blocked out of this experience or that, or you're trying to get acknowledgement from a parent or a step parent and they just blow you off and they don't care how well you did or what you did. And these places of deep trauma and pain in us are huge opportunities to actually examine the nature of how we perceive ourselves, of how we have gone through life, and all of the ways that we have been acting in response and in reaction to what we've learned and what we've received by actually having people treat us certain ways at certain points in our life. And by doing the work of saying, okay, I've been through some stuff, and this is really triggering this part of me, and this is really hurting this part of me, suddenly this experience that was so hard, that is dishonor and that is hurtful and that doesn't make you feel good, becomes an opportunity to do really, really deep and profound spiritual work on yourself. And that is where the magic really starts to happen. That's where the grace really starts to emerge, because you start to see that these shadows, this dishonor, this event is a driver for you to work on yourself and to grow and to evolve as a person, that you can actually do the work of opening up and unlocking the states of acknowledgement, the states of presence, the states of honor, the states of love, and all of these things that you wish to see in this experience outside of you. And as you do that internal work, the outer world begins to change too. People begin to acknowledge and understand you more. People begin to see you more, because you're not asking for it. You're just being, and they start seeing. Things begin to change. Now, it's not going to happen everywhere. You may still always have a certain relationship or a certain organization you work with that just doesn't meet you, that doesn't actually show up for you. And they say they will, and they ask for your participation, and they do these things, and they just still don't, because they're caught up in their own journey. And usually that journey is connected to the psychological trauma of the people leading that org or doing that project or doing that event. And that's okay. And we have to open ourselves with love to the graciousness of the understanding that every person has their own path. Everyone has their own journey to understanding how to be more in integrity, how to be more loving and more honorable with others. But that's not our work, is it? Our work is how to develop those skills in us so that we can be honoring of others. You can take that very experience of that org treating you that way. And then when you have a company and you have an org, you take the extra steps to be more acknowledging, to be more accepting, to be more honoring and loving and meeting people in the wholeness of who they are. So just by having the experience, you do something different. And now you're evolving the field of consciousness. You're actually moving it forward. And inside of you, this nature of grace, this gift that's inside of you that comes as you break down the mental structures and the illusions that you've created around, it's often like victim stories. That's one of the things that we wrap around these kinds of things, where it's like, they do this to me. As you start to break that down, you start to really feel the feeling, you start to go, okay, this is here for me. It's not they did this to me. This is here for me. This is real. And I need to feel this, and I need to face this, and that this hurts me this much, and that I feel this much about this. And by going into that hurt, going into that feeling, by starting to unwind it, starting to unpack it, and let ourselves move through it, the past comes in, the memories come in, perhaps you grieve, you cry, you move through this whole wave of energy that's connected to that. And as that happens, you start to realize certain things about yourself, certain things about your life. You may begin to see that a lot of these moments in your life that have been so hard, these moments that have been traumatic even and extraordinarily difficult, are part of this forge that you created, this soul forge for your being to be more of who you are. You start to realize that your guardianship is based on your experience of lack of justice in situations and manipulation, and that's caused you to choose to actually get into understanding how we can be more just and provide each other with, better frameworks for acknowledgement and dealing with when we make mistakes, when we fail in communication, when we have conflict with others. You may gain an understanding that part of the trauma or the abuse you went through has led you to become someone who serves in helping other people heal from abuse. And in recovery processes of coming out of that, you may find that, having the experience of divorced parents and traveling around a lot or being in different places has given you the gift of understanding more different people, where they come from, and given you a diversity of perspectives in that space. So each one of these really painful moments in your life is connected to a gift that you have. And it's one of the reasons I love the Gene Keys, because it's such a powerful lens into how these shadows are evolutionary drivers that build energy for us and allow us to transmute those shadows into gifts and live those gifts more and more fully until we begin to start to see the higher architecture or the divine architecture for those shadows and gifts, and start to gain a glimpse at the beauty of what it is like to be a conscious being evolving and aware of our consciousness evolving. It's phenomenally amazing. And grace, we think about grace and we kind of define it as like these moments of grace, right? We look at our lives and we consider that, wow, It was like that one moment when that one person showed up for me and they said this to me at this festival or this event or this experience. And that moment, that just moment of that share and that connection suddenly opened me up to something more, something deeper about myself, about my life. This moment of grace broke me out of the place of pain that I was in. This moment of grace just helped me stop doing what I was doing. And I realized something new about my work and about my life. Moments of grace are like, being in a cloudy, rainy storm and feeling lost and pushing your way through the wind. And then suddenly everything stops and a crack opens in the clouds and there's the sun pouring through, and it pours right into you and warms you and helps you feel like the storm is okay and it's leading to something beautiful. Grace is those dark nights where you struggle and fight yourself and are battling against your own mind, your own demons, your own emotions, and going through the pain of believing that things are falling apart, that you're losing a relationship or you're facing some dark part of yourself and your own psyche that you don't know how to fix. And you're processing through and trying to climb out of it, and you can't. And then grace comes like the sunrise, and something happens inside of you where a level of love for yourself and acceptance for your life and what you've been through starts to bloom. And you realize you don't have to have all the answers. You realize you don't have to have it all figured out. It doesn't all have to be solved like a puzzle. It's just a journey, and you're in this journey. And the journey is going to have dark points, and the journey is going to have gorgeous, beautiful sunrises. So we define these moments of grace by the journey of the experience that we're in. And a lot of times it's a transformational journey. It's moving through something very difficult and finding the light at the end of the tunnel. And so if we start to look at our life as this kind of journey, we see these transformations, we see these surfacings, we see the new ideas and the new knowledge and the growth that we have. It's just even the simplest acknowledgement of, you want to have something, you want to be something, you want to get somewhere in the future. You've got this, mission and vision, and you're going for it and you're going at it. And it feels so overwhelming, or it feels so big, or it feels like it's too much, or you don't know how you're going to do it, but you're just committed to doing it. But every day, maybe you feel a little bit of this, like, I don't know if I can pull this off. And a part of you scared of it because it's big and it's your life work, it's your life vision, it's the thing that you really want to create. And you're up against that feeling, and you're judging yourself based on where you should be, or how you should have already gotten to this stage, or how you already should have accomplished this much or done this much. And you're feeling under the weight of all of the parts of you that are seeking to be there already and already have this thing done, and you're not there yet. So grace, in this case, is about actually acknowledging how far you have come to be where you are. Look at where you were a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Look at the journey of the arc that you've been on. Look at how much your knowledge, your work, your skills, your capacity has evolved. Look at how you have moved through life. Look at how you have changed. That is honoring yourself. It's acknowledging these little wins, these little gifts, and they may not look like what you think they should look like. They may not be as big and as grand as your overall life journey mission, vision, direction. But those are just as important. They are the things that help you track the markers of grace in your life. They help you see that even though it may not look a certain way that you may be expected to, that is the journey of grace in your life. That is the arc of your life. And for some of us, we remember lifetimes, and we have past lives, and we have experiences of those past lives and direct memories, visceral memories in many cases, of fighting and dying and having a sword run through you, or killing someone, or being in the very, very, very intense experiences, really, really hardcore experiences. This planet has been through some stuff. And a lot of us have, died in pretty rough ways in the past. Whether you were an herbalist and burned at the stake, or hunted down, or shot with an arrow, or run through with a blade, or you name it, there's just a lot of intense things that we've experienced in the past. And if you can look at and take account for the fact that, hey, at least you're not in a village right now that's being, raided by a bunch of guys, rolling through on horses, like burning all the thatch roofs in your village, like at least you're not dealing with that. And hopefully you're not on this planet at this time dealing with that. Now, we do have war, and we do have some very, very intense things going on in this world that are just as bad or worse in some cases. And yet, for each of us individually, we have to look at our own journey, our own pathway, that we were in this experience and now we're in a different one. We've moved, we've created a pathway, a process. And so this pathway, this process is actually a journey of spiritual evolution. This is a journey of actually evolving our soul, who we are, and what we are, and what we're capable of. And that journey of the evolution of the soul is this complex, deep exploration of being itself and what consciousness actually is. Grace is magic because it's actually the gift of the infinite, eternal, fluid spirit, creation, universal, whatever the heck you want to define it. It's this literally guiding light as we go, that we are going to something better, that there is a movement occurring. Now, this is an important piece to really grasp and absorb, especially because a lot of us have gone into the idea that our spirituality and that our, maybe new religion or new age thing, or whatever it is that you take that as, we have a lot of perception these days that that's about oneness. And that oneness is this sort of state that we should be in. We should be already like being one with each other, because that's the thing that we already are, right? But like, shouldn't we be acting as if we're more like one with each other? And shouldn't we already be experiencing more of that oneness with each other? Well, that is a useful spiritual lens to say, hey, how am I acting as though others are me? How am I treating others as though they are myself? Am I treating them the way I want to be treated? Am I doing in a way that I'd like others to do to me? It's basic golden rule stuff when you really get down to it. Do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. And that's far from a Christian concept. It's in Wicca and Druidry and a bunch of different traditions all over the planet, is this same sort of fundamental concept. And yet, there are many, many pitfalls in the psychological approach to this idea that we're already one. Because if we are already one, then we lose the sense of differentiation that is required for us to acknowledge ourselves and acknowledge other people, to actually recognize the differences in others, to actually seeing the dynamics of change that occur. And that also means understanding the dynamics of change that we have been through in our lives. If you're already one and all of time and space is an illusion and all of that means nothing, and basically that's the thing we're trying to get rid of, then you've not been on a journey. You haven't had experiences. You don't have memories. You don't have knowledge. You haven't grown. You've not done anything. There's nothing that you do that matters at all because you're just already one. Everything is already the soup. It's already like this one unified whole thing. And there's nothing to do. There isn't anything. And that's one place to be in consciousness. But it's one that as we go through daily life and we, got to eat food and we need to engage with people and have conversations. Although some people choose to not eat food, not have conversations, to hermitage into themselves and go into their own consciousness. And that's okay too. That's part of their journey that they're on, right? But they chose to do that at some point. Right? They had some other journey where they were having a different kind of experience of engaging with people, of eating food, of doing things. And they chose now to transition to that, to get more to nothingness, if maybe that's what they want, or that experience of, spiritual development that comes with detaching from all things and recognizing that everything that you need is in you. And that's all very valuable. Yet they still go through the change into that. We still go through the journey. We still have this walk through the path of duality, as they would say, of light and dark, of good and bad, of this and that, of hot and cold, and all of the things that doesn't go away. And the journey you've been on doesn't go away. And if you didn't have any memory and you didn't have any journey of experience, you wouldn't be a person. You wouldn't be who you are. And you being who you are is actually one of the most amazing things in all of this. The fact that you are having this experience through this vehicle that you're in, and you're looking out of these eyes, and you have this particular sense of taste and smell and touch, and you interact with these things around you, and that's not changing. You're not going into something else. You're not going to become me all of a sudden or become somebody else. You are you. And oh my God, you are you. Gee, you are you, right? You're the guru. You're the thing. And that's not going to go anywhere. It's always going to be there. You're going to wake up every day and you're going to be you. And you is a pretty amazing thing. You have a journey. You have experiences. You have felt and tasted and gone through certain things that nobody else has. You may think, oh, well, I haven't lived that special of a life. You're wrong. You have lived an extraordinarily special life, no matter what you have done with it, because you're still the only person that's going to have your experience. And there is a magic to the grace in that. There is this gift to, as I said earlier, the divine feminine in that. And the reason I use that term divine feminine connected to grace here is that one of the principles of the feminine is that everything is energy, everything is love, everything is moving. And one of the sort of key alchemical processes that we do in gender relation is through the feminine in us. And, whether you're female bodied or male bodied, doesn't matter. The feminine in us wants to feel and experience all of it. And to feel and experience all of it, you have to be different from it. You don't feel and experience all of it when you are all of it, right? Entirely. And that means even yourself experiencing this taste versus that taste. It's still your taste, but it's different tastes, right? It's you feel this way in this arm and this way in this arm, or, different parts of your body feel different ways. Different parts of your body have different sensitivities. Experiencing all the different aspects of you is part of the beauty of the divine feminine journey. And we can contrast that some with this sort of divine masculine principle and the masculine energy that is driven and directed and focused and needs to laser in on one thing at a time, focusing all that energy towards something. And essentially that something is death. It's the breakthrough. It's the completion. It's the fulfillment of the goal. And then you can relax into nothing, right? You've done it. It's done. Right? And that masculine journey has dominated a lot of our spirituality perspective, that you just have to meditate hard enough, do this good enough, be this way, ascetic, stop eating, stop doing this, stop whatever, breathe this way, get there, cross that line, boom, you will be enlightened. You're going to be awesome. Like you're going to get there. If you just take that trail up that mountain and you keep going and you work through it, then you're going to have this breakthrough. And yes, spiritual awakenings do happen in that way. We do have breakthroughs in that way. This is a gift, right? This is a gift. And this gift is this like expansiveness of consciousness encompassing all things as one thing, unifying everything as the self, that it is all me. Yes, I can take responsibility for all of it. I can be all of it. I am all of it. It's ultimate masculine. And yet, that is not all that there is. That is not all that we are. We're still in the moment. We're still flowing. We're still experiencing things. We're still getting thirsty. We still get hungry. We still pick up this thing. We still pick up that thing. And the spiritual conversation often misses the depth of embodiment and engagement with the world, because there is great grace in the engagement we have with the world. It is in the service that we give to each other. It is in the love that we share with each other. It is in the bonds that we create and the children we have, and this journey of life that is unmistakably beautiful and perfect, and it doesn't need to be anything else. It doesn't have to be zenned out and cleared out for there to be good, because good is inherent in the magic of it. Spiritual development is inherent in the magic of it. There isn't something that you do or not do that's like, this is spiritual and this is not spiritual. Like you're still on the path, no matter what it is you're doing. Even if that's distracting yourself, even if that's getting lost, even if that's falling down a hole, losing your business, going through whatever you're going through, you are still on the path, because those falls, those failures, those difficulties, even to the nth extent, like the worst thing imaginable, which is like suicide, is still part of a spiritual journey, because your being is going to keep going. And that dark experience, whatever that is, that hell that you've created for yourself, is a fertile ground for evolution. It is a fertile ground for your self-realization, your discovery, for you to come out of that and know more about yourself and know more about your life. How can I say that? Well, because I've been through that. And I know a lot of people that have been through that. And many of you listening to this, I imagine, can relate pretty well. And it's essentially as simple as looking at your life and realizing that some of the darkest times led to the biggest breakthroughs, that you changed because of those moments. And it's not, doesn't mean that you have to create more of those difficulties. That would be a very divine masculine approach. It would say, okay, if A, then B equals C. So yeah, that means like, I got to have shit fall, things really fall apart for me to go through a transformation and for me to then have a higher level of spiritual awakening. And maybe if we've had a lot of those patterns in our lives, yeah, that's our go-to. We go back to that. We're like, okay, stuff's got to really break down here or I'm not going to change, right? You have this idea that like, you're going to have to go through some kind of cathartic thing, and that's how it's going to happen. Newsflash for me in my own journey through life, you don't need to do that. In fact, it's realizing that you've done that as a choice and that you can actually change the way you go through spiritual evolution, is a pretty powerful thing to claim. And it's about realizing that, wow, sometimes the greatest growth and the greatest breakthroughs can happen in times when things are amazing, when everything is on and it's all happening, and you're recognizing, my gosh, this is connected to this, is connected to this, and it's connected to this. And that's the whole other side of the spiritual realization journey. And maybe, you had a dark moment that brought you through into that, but you don't need the dark moment to necessarily enter that. You can actually go into that place of realizing and discovering and growing and evolving in yourself without the crash. You can go through cathartic breakthroughs, massive shifts, big changes in your life, and you can do it as easily and as gracefully as you choose to make something else for dinner tonight than what you made last night. You can do it as gracefully as declining that call that's coming in that moment that doesn't feel good for you, and you take an extra moment with yourself. You can do it as gracefully as just feeling what's right for you right now. And that grace that's in life will support that. It supports you in actually being gracious with yourself. You will find the gifts that come with spiritual evolution and growth don't rely on one particular thing happening, this or that, this thing, that thing. You may have crafted your own story around what things need to happen in what order for you to accomplish your work. You may have crafted a story that says, I can't experience this unless I've gone through that. Or you may have a story that, something that you do is something that isn't the best thing that you could be doing. It's something wrong with you and it's a limitation, and you can't actually manifest the things you want, the money, the house, the car, the change, the relationship, whatever it is. You can't do that until you fix that part of you that's broken. Well, it's not true, because all of you is on a journey. All of you is deciding. And in fact, you saying, I can't have this until I fix that, you're claiming that. You're making that your reality. And it takes a huge amount of graciousness with yourself to say, all right, yeah, that part of me that's a little rough, like I'm working on that. I understand that it's not going to change overnight. That's okay. It's not holding me back though. It's not keeping me from being who I am. It's not stopping me from giving my gift. It is not at all in any way blocking me from manifesting these things or having these experiences. And as soon as you recognize that and you kind of slough that off and you're like, oh, boy, yeah, that feels better. Knowing that like I'm not like literally holding myself back because of some part of myself that's not entirely perfect to what, by the way, to some lens, some idea of what perfection is, to some idea of that you have to be this way, or you have to have all these things dialed, or you have to have already done blah, 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 X, Y, and Z. And then you're like awesome. And then you're a superhero. And then you're an expert. Like we do this game all the time. We craft these visions to compare ourselves to, and those comparisons essentially make us feel less than we already are. They make us feel less than we can be. And by disarming those comparisons, acknowledging the parts of ourselves that aren't perfect yet, having graciousness about the reality that we're on a beautiful journey and it's all happening in perfect timing, and we can accept all of these parts of ourselves, and we can come into deeper harmony with who we are and actually breathe into the spaces inside of our body that hurt and open our being more to all of the acknowledgement of the moments in our lives that have led us to this one, and acknowledge the people in our lives that have been there, that have supported us, that have helped us out, that have brought us deeper into ourselves, that have guided us, that appreciation, that acknowledgement, the help that we've received, the gifts that we've given, these things actually help us to build a foundation where we feel strong and we feel the current of grace in our lives. We feel that life is a gift, that it's not something to be fixed or changed or made one way or another, that life is a gift and it's just here for us to receive it. If we can just open ourselves up just a little more, just allow a little bit more in. And it's not an act that you have to do. It's not something hard. It's not something like, oh, but how do I open myself more? Well, you just surrender. You just let go. You stop trying. You don't try to open up, right? You just do. And that's relaxing. That's softening. It's giving yourself a little more time, giving yourself a little bit more space, saying, you know, God, I'd love to have been here in my business by now, or I'd love to have this much money in my bank account. I'm going to just soften and relax and understand that maybe what I have right now is exactly perfect for me right now. And I'm just in this process of creating these transitions to where I want to be. And maybe I just need to relax and allow the way things are to be okay. And if I can appreciate that, if I can be in gratitude for that, this one we're going back to the secret from back in the day. If you just have gratitude for what you are, all that gratitude is going to make more of all the things that you want manifest. Well, yeah, it is like that in a lot of ways. Our current of love and appreciation for ourselves and our life actually creates a current and a strength inside of us that then causes more of what we like and what we want to bloom in our lives. There is a truth to this attraction game, and that life steers itself based on the current of the feeling and the flow and the ideas and the space that we hold. And we just have to be watchful and catch the little part of us that's like, well, I don't do enough gratitude practice, or I don't meditate enough, or I should have stopped smoking years ago, or I should have stopped drinking years ago, or I wish I just could be a breatharian, because I don't digest that well, or I wish I could do this or that, or whatever it is. Those are the little things we have to watch for, because those are the little ways that we just very subtly dishonor ourselves. We just very subtly judge ourselves. We break little bits of trust in us because we think we should have done this and we should have done that and could have done better and could have done this. And yeah, events and experiences are useful guides for us. We can acknowledge that. Yes, I understand that if I did something wrong, it's very helpful for me to look at that and say, I could have done this differently. And I should do that differently in the future. I can do this better. That's a growth and that's a lesson, and we're learning that. But take the lesson, accept it, realize that you're choosing something different, and let go. Let go of the idea that you are incapable of being perfect, or that you are incapable of having what you want because you have not reached some illusionary plateau of perfection in some area or another. I think you guys get the point. It's actually just about releasing and letting go in these different parts of ourselves around the stuff that we maybe haven't done exactly right, that we think isn't exactly right, but it is. It's okay. You're there. You're here. It is this moment, and this moment is full of grace. This moment is full of magic. There's literally nothing that you can do wrong. You are in a journey through life and through time. And this journey has an architecture to it And I've seen that architecture. I've seen it in the deepest moments of my spiritual revelation, both through the masculine and through the feminine side, both by the intensity of overcoming the journey and reaching that pinnacle in that moment. And then boom, the crown chakra opens and boom, the clarity of the divine is present, everything, and through the deep embodied feeling of all the ways that I've judged myself and all the knots and the sanskaras I've created through all the mistakes I've ever made. And then the surrender to feeling into the heart of all of it and witnessing suddenly that every curl, every knot, every thorn, every painful point is part of this spiraling, flowing movement of life that blooms into the most glorious divine garden imaginable. And that everything that you have ever done, every moment, however you perceive it, good or bad or this or that all fits together in this garden. It all fits together in this flowing, growing, perfect expression of life. And it takes great moments of transformation and great moments of grace in us to truly see it, to truly get just how beautiful each of those steps has been. And it is impossible for the mind to just grab it and say, that's how that is, and that's how we describe this, because to see that hurt in the past or this pain or this mistake or that mistake caused a chain reaction that caused this growth and this evolution and this movement that led to this relationship, which led to this thing happening, which led to that event. I mean, you just can't track that kind of thing with your mind. You can't track it with technology. You can't see the impact of the flow of all of this beauty and this perfection. And yet, in these moments of divine grace, we get to witness it. We get to really see it, and we get to really feel it, and we get to really know it. And when we do, and when it's there, it's beyond anything I can describe. And it's a journey. And it's a journey of being. And it's all okay. It's all okay. Thank you all for joining me. Once again, my name is Adam Apollo. Feel free to find me. You can Google me or just go to adamapollo.com, find me through my website, and I'd love to connect with you. I'm also speaking at an event in San Diego at the end of the month called Liberty's Horizon. If you want to learn more about that, you can get on my newsletter at adamapollo.com. I'll also be posting some info on my Instagram and Facebook and things like that. And I'd just love to see you and connect with you in person if you're moved by and or connected to the ideas that I share here. And thank you so much for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you in 2 more weeks. We have our final session of this series, the final pillar, peace itself. And we will explore the nature of what peace really is and how we can attain it and how we can achieve it within ourselves, move through the journey and claim more of that which is already ours. Thank you so much. Aloha keakua, blessed be in Lakesh. And I'll see you next time, 2 Fridays from now, for peace. Aloha keakua.